Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
Today, we're going to discuss federal business opportunities, probably one of the most understood, if that's a word, or misunderstood is probably the correct term, on how to do business with the government. Let me get the introduction out of the way. Who am I? I'm a service-disabled Vietnam vet. I am the oldest GSA consultant in the world. I've checked and verified that. There are other companies who are getting up there as far as the amount of time they've been in business, but we've been under continuous ownership, that would be me, since August 12th, 1986. Just celebrated our 32nd anniversary. I am old, never realized it. I've worked on the beta team, e-offer, and a couple of the other ones that aren't that widely used, but they are smart enough to come to the industry to get expertise, which is something a lot of the government folks don't have. And why do I do this? I enjoy helping people. A wise man once said to me, if you start a business to make money, you will go broke. If you start a business to help people, you'll be rich. As a side note, I'm still waiting for that to happen. Basically, one word. Dell. I picked up the phone on August 12th, made a phone call. Michael Dell picked up. We talked. Next thing I know, I'm in Austin, Texas, and I believe you all know the end of that story, which is still evolving. So, to sum it up in 2 words, experience matters. Here's what you can expect today. We're going to talk about federal business opportunities, why it's important, but more importantly, we're going to talk about how to use it to build your contact list. Do not buy email lists for government people. They're garbage, they're bogus, and it's a scam. You don't need it. I'm going to show you how to do it the right way and the free way. How does it work? One of the things you really want to do is to gain intelligence about the agency and, more importantly, the competing vendors. If you go to the competing vendors portion and you see who's in there watching, see if you recognize anybody. If you don't, you have 1 or 2 problems, possibly. You're in the wrong spot or they haven't figured it out yet. But basically, when it hits FedBizOps, it's usually, as we say, wired for somebody already. Now, there's a couple ways you can defeat that. The problem is you can't really get into a deep dive on the past award history without going to Federal Procurement Data Center and pulling reports. We'll do a separate webinar on that. The key contacts, really where you want to be is with the users, not with the buyer. The buyer can direct you to the user or to the small business advocate, which every agency has to have a small business advocate. That's the important thing. This is a link, by the way, for those of you who are new here. If you look at the last portion of your control panel on the right, you'll see the word handouts, 4 of 5. Those are yours. FBO recovery data. This is a link from your slides. You'll be able to click on this link and go pick up the recovery data directly from the government. I believe it's in a Excel or CSV format, so you'll be able to use it and do something with it. Then we're going to move on to Vendor collaboration, which is something relatively new, not really new, but relatively. Agencies are always seeking vendor input, hence the reason why I was on the beta teams. They always want to find out what we're thinking. All 650,000 plus of you, they want to know what you're thinking. How can you help them improve their acquisitions? Vendor collaboration does that. They also have a central event list that you can get into, onto, and interact with. Federal information technology is what drives all of this. And for many, many years, pretty much all we did were IT GSA schedules. That's changed quite a bit. There's been a switch over to buildings and a few of the others, MOBIS, of course. But for the most part, IT still rules, because without IT, you can't have the others. What is a small business central listing? It's an interagency task force. They want the agencies to post all of their outreach and training events. They don't do it. It's supposed to make things less burdensome and easier for you to interact with the various agencies. It's not going to happen. No matter how much we complain, no matter how much we complain, I said that twice, it doesn't do any good. So how do you find out where your potential teaming partners are? And by the way, one of your handouts, let me open that up real quick and take a look at it. One of your handouts is a spreadsheet that has, at the time I pulled it, which was, I believe, Sunday, was only 38,000 potential opportunities. I closed the browser, opened it up again, ended up with 41,000. It just never, ever ends. However, all we're concerned about, for the most part, and just to give you an idea why I'm going to say what I'm going to say, you will win, if you're lucky, 1 in 20 proposals you submit. 1 in 20. Now, how much does it cost you to put together a proposal for the government? How do you find a solicitation without the number? You don't always know what the solicitation number is. That's why we're here. We're in FedBizOps to find opportunities. Well, there's a couple ways you can do it. Number one, you can look at the various what's called FSCs, Federal Supply Class. For example, IT is Group 70. It'll say FSC 70, or it'll say 70- new computers. You're in the right spot there. Buildings, 56. If you go on to the e-library at GSA, you can see all the federal supply classes. Top right-hand corner, click on the drop-down and pick which one you want. That'll give you the FSC. That's one way of doing it. Then you have what's also called the PSC, Procurement Code. And for the record, those of you who have survived SAM know what it's like. Tony, thank you for your kind words. I'll let you see the write-up here. They give you explicit instructions. I'm not going to waste your time and go over it. It's in your slides. Just follow the directions. You can pretty much find anything you want. Here's some links. And I want to digress a moment and go through a couple different areas. I want to give you some statistics first. First statistic is, and we have quite a few people today, but it's nothing that's unmanageable. Of the 650,000 people that are registered on SAM, almost 70% of you do not accept credit cards. Well, guess what? If you don't accept credit cards, you can't do business with the government. You're required to accept credit cards. Of the 650,000 of you that are on SAM, more than 50%, I haven't done the exact number, more than 50% do not have a website. It's unbelievable. How can you do business without a website? Or you have one and didn't put it in the SAM record. And SAM updates me every single day to do exactly what we're doing right now, is to provide you complimentary webinars to try to get you better educated so that you can do something with your SAM registration. And I'm not going to go through the horror story, but I will go through the horror story. Had a client in North Carolina who's set for award, approved. All we had to do was respond to the email to go into e-offer and sign the contract, which I can do in 5 minutes. Unfortunately, right before that happened, her SAM record expired. Okay, no big deal. Go renew it. This was May. In the height of you have to have a certified letter in order to get a new or renew or update your SAM record. We didn't get that approval for the SAM record being reactivated for almost 3 months. I believe it was the beginning of August. We have a question here. Tony's asking, are you saying we should research the possible buyers and contact them directly or the contracting officer? Tony, they're both the same. The buyer is the contracting officer. Depending upon the size of the procurement, they have what's called purchasing warrant, as in warrant for arrest, purchasing warrant. Some have a 10,000, some have 25,000. More senior contracting officers / buyers have unlimited warrant. That is your ready-made contact list. It's going to take some research, it's going to take some time. Do it on a Saturday when it doesn't interfere with your business. Let them know that you provide the product and or service that they're looking for. Now, what's the first question they're going to ask you? Do you have a GSA contract? If you did, I can place an order right now and be done with this. Well, better than 50% of you on SAM do not have a GSA contract. And if those of you who were here last week, when we did state contracts, which you can watch the video replay on our website, it all but guarantees you a state contract for those states that take the express route and say, if you have a GSA contract, we'll give you a state contract. I know for a fact that Texas does it, Florida does it, California does it, and Virginia does it. Those are the only ones I'm familiar with. Thank you for the question, Tony. So those of you that do not accept credit cards, don't have a website, or have a GSA contract, think hard and long about taking the shortcut. Tony, you are wonderful, and I should have probably paid you to be here. Tony asks, how do you get a GSA contract? Well, you happen to be on the right page to look at the links. First of all, do you qualify for a GSA contract? Let me give you a couple requirements. Have you been in business for 2 years or more? And there's some caveats there. Had an old client that had been independent, sole proprietor for 24 years. His accountant convinced him to incorporate. He'd been incorporated for 8 months. GSA rejected him. I had him do a write-up that he did what's basically borrowing past performance. It was still him by himself. Then he started hiring people. We were able to get him his contract because his accountant advised him wrong before he got his contract to incorporate. I believe it was wrong. So what we do now when this happens, if Susie Cream Cheese decides she wants to incorporate, I tell her, you need to give us a write-up to give GSA so it passes through, and that past performance on your company being less than 2 years old. The question is, how long have you been in business? That could mean you or your company. Terry, good question. How can I get a copy of the contract? Copy of the recording. If you look on the bottom link on the slide in front of you, it says our videos. Within about an hour, as soon as we get it edited and uploaded, it'll be available for you to watch again. You can get the slides by clicking on your handouts. So from that aspect, that's the number one. I don't have what you all are looking at. If you're on a phone, you might have a problem. If you're on a computer, it'll be under View, and then put a check mark next to Handouts, and you'll see them down the right-hand side. Just click on each one, and it will download it. There's only 4. One of them is a rather large spreadsheet. I strongly suggest that anybody that goes into FBO and looks at the procurements, do your filter first for what you're looking for, and then download the sheet. Then you should be fine. Moving on. I don't see the bottom of the page I'm referring to. We're looking at the slide that's on the screen. It says our videos. You won't be able to do anything with it right now, but it'll be in your slides on slide 10 of 11. All right, I like that, a military woman, Roger. Can I complete what it takes to get a GSA contract? We used to do hour-long webinars. In fact, Tony, there is one in there on how to get a GSA contract. Gives you the basics of what you'll have to do for your homework. I want you to think about, while we're having this discussion, what it takes for your or an accountant to do your tax return. Can you do it yourself? Absolutely. But I can guarantee you 89% of you that do it yourself will get rejected. Of the 89% of you that are rejected, 95% will get a contract with professional help. This is all we do for 32 years. I don't get involved in open market procurements anymore. I don't get involved in anything other than focus strictly on GSA contracts. That in and of itself is tough. Tony, you got another question. What is a GSA contract? We've done webinars on that also. There's plenty of videos there. I'll give you a brief overview. You can go to FBO, and actually, if you go to FBO, you can actually find the solicitation for any GSA contract that you want. GSA was empowered by Congress in 1949. They started out with buildings and then went to products. And then in 1996, they added services. It took them a while to finally get their act together. If you're going to grab a opportunity off FBO, you're going to put together a proposal. You're getting the RFP and your request for proposal. You're submitting a proposal. You're negotiating that proposal against however many other respondents are doing the same thing. With a GSA contract, there are no other respondents. Technically there are, but you're not competing with them. GSA is based on your commerciality, what you do in your commercial practices. It used to be GSA was based strictly on best value. Now they've gone to price competition. But as small business owners, those of you that are veteran-owned, woman-owned, 8A, HubZone, Native American, and I probably missed a couple. You've got a little bit of a kicker that lets you charge 5 to 10% more and still be what's considered in the competitive range. Now, here's the advantage. With a GSA contract, which could take anywhere from 30 days to 120 days, I've had some that have gone longer, but it's not the client's fault. It's GSA's fault. Little thing called the government shutdown got in the way one time, twice actually. So once that's finally negotiated and awarded, you've got a 5-year contract. So quick trivia question. If you grab something off FBO and you submit that proposal and you negotiate that proposal and you get an award, begins with a C, what do you get? A contract. Wait a minute. I got my hand raised. I already have a contract. I have a GSA contract. You don't have to bid. Rewind back to the third slide that says use FBO to get the contact list, build your database, your CRM, whatever you're using to manage your contacts. Contact the buyer, let them know you have a GSA contract. If you don't and it's in process and the buyer says to you, do you have a GSA contract? Your answer is not technically, legally, it's yes. I mean, no, but you can't say yes, but you can say no, but it's in process. Same question I get when I ask people if they have a website. Not really, but we're working on it. Well, you've been working on it 6 months. What if I told you I could get you a website up in 5 minutes that all you had to do is add content and you're now on the internet? You've got presence. Wilson asks, what's the difference between FSS and GSA? Nothing. Sorry for the short answer. Nothing. GSA contracts come under the Federal Supply Service. Now, the correct terminology for a GSA contract is GSA Multiple Award Schedule Contract. GSA Multiple Award Schedule Contract. We just say GSA schedule or GSA contract. It's quicker, easier, and everybody knows what it is. What it is not is, how do I get a GSA number? You don't. You get a GSA contract that has a contract number. Okay, Tony, one more time. So you're saying you have to win a GSA contract to be registered. To be registered for what? You don't win a GSA contract. It's an application process. There is no competition between you and me, or you and Sally, or you and anybody else. It's based on what you do in the commercial world. Hopefully that answers your question, Tony. Go through the how do I qualify for a GSA contract? Or do I qualify? It's going to ask you all the questions. If you need to, request a consultation, which we're pretty much having one right now. Oh, here we go, Tony. I see you're saying I submit, what do I do at my price? And it's like they give me a contract, which then other agencies can purchase from me. I think you just found the bell, ding, ding. If you have a contract, any agency, including, depending upon what it is, if it's 84, which is law enforcement, firefighting and all that good stuff, or IT, the states can automatically buy through your GSA contract with no questions asked. Any agency that ends in gov or mil or whatever it happens to be can also buy directly off your contract without having to put out an RFP on FedBizOps. FedBizOps ultimately should become your source for unlimited free contacts. You get all the information. It's there. proposals and bids or won? If they're not, what determines if you're awarded a contract? Good question, Monica. Welcome to your first webinar. I don't remember the name ever showing up before. You are not submitting a proposal to GSA. You're submitting an application. It's technically called a proposal, but it's single, just you. There are probably 100, just for an example, to pick a number, companies that have submitted applications for a GSA contract in IT in any one given day. They have nothing to do with you and vice versa. They don't compare back and forth. We did a webinar was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago on calc. And it talked strictly about your services rates, and it shows you the upper, the lower, the median, and the delta, and all the other good fancy statistics that I didn't pay attention to when I was in high school. As long as you are in the competitive range, in your case as a small business, within 5 to 10% of the highest, your rate will be awarded. The difference between a GSA contract and GSA schedule, nothing. They're exactly the same. Alice, how do you get the application? You can get it off FedBizOps, FBO.gov. And I strongly suggest that you don't waste a lot of time becoming an 89% statistic. Go to the second link on your slide there and need help getting it done. We'll be more than happy to sit down and talk with you and work you a deal. Anything else? Looks like we're caught up on our questions for now. Hopefully, Alice, that answers your question. If you're prepared to go through the 140 pages of stuff that every time I turn around, they're changing it, trying to confuse people. And they're trying to, actually, believe it or not, they're trying to make it simpler and cut the number of forms, which used to be up as high as 20 at one point in time. But that's not the only thing you need. There's a lot of homework needs to be done. And if you go back and look at the steps to a GSA contract video that we have on our website, which you can catch on the last link, you'll see that there's quite a bit involved before you even, we even talk about filling out the forms. First thing you're going to need is past performance evaluation. Alice, go to the bottom of your control panel and you'll see the slides. It should be the first handout under handouts. The links do not work because we're on a webinar and you're looking at a slide rather than an actual document. You'll find that on slide number 10, page number 10 of the slide download, you'll be able to see the links and be able to click on them. Why does experience matter? We had that discussion before. Been around a long time, far too long. But how much golf can you play when you retire? I'll probably, from my grave, continue to do webinars. They might be pre-recorded, but Tony, I'd suggest that when we're finished here, give me a couple of minutes to get a glass of water and give me a call. You'll see the information on the last page. Of course, you already have my email because you sent me an email earlier today. Dubell, I hope I said that correctly. Here we go. We've been in business as a sole proprietorship for many years. We just formed an S Corp LLC. Well, there's no such thing as an S Corp LLC. It's one or the other. Take the LLC. That way you do not have to have one W-2 employee. That's why in 2010, we switched from an S Corp from 1986 to an LLC, so we didn't have to do that. Woman-owned business, excellent. We have a woman-owned business webinar coming up, I believe, the end of next month. What else we got here on this? Let me finish reading it. Do we have any chance of getting a GSA approval? Absolutely. You're not a new entity. How long have you been in business? How do we provide services? Let me get this right, James. How do we provide services veterans? What services do you want to provide, James? Michael, you've been in business longer than me. You have no problem at all getting a contract. It says here, Timothy, good question. On my SAM report, check status, accessibility, GSA, am I eligible for GSA contracts? You only get one contract unless you have different, let's say you did building supplies and IT, you'd get two different contracts. Check status only checks the status of your SAM record to see if there are any errors. That's all that does. NAICS codes and procurement service codes are the two most important things. GSA is moving away from the NAICS codes and moving towards the PSCs. Monica, did you get your audio back? So let me go back up here to a previous question. All right, Michael, you've been in business 40 years. We need to have a discussion. Let me see, what's Tony got going on here now? Okay. I've been in business many years, working for different companies. We opened our business last year. Does that meet the 2-year requirement? Tony, were you an employee of that company or were you an independent contractor? Very important answer you're about to give. If you're an independent contractor, you have no problem at all. If you're an employee of the other company, there are ways to do it. We've done it. We've only had to do it twice, but we got it to work. So get a hold of me after the webinar and let's have a discussion. Any other questions, folks? This has probably been one of the most informative non-GSA scheduled webinars I've ever had. Also, second link up from the bottom there, you can check our webinar schedule, see what's coming. I'm getting ready to add 4 more, take us well into October. And you can view any of our videos. This one will take probably an hour or so to get it downloaded, edited, and the problem is uploading it to YouTube takes forever because everybody's doing the same thing with stories of their cat that can walk on his hands while he's holding a mouse. I saw one of them one time. So it's unfortunate, but they chew up the bandwidth. Let's move on to our last slide. I want to thank you for attending today. Hopefully Monica got her audio back. I've found that the internet isn't that kind to some voice over IP connections. I'm not going to mention any internet provider names because Comcast would get upset. So, oh, I did say that. My bad. It's been a pleasure with all of you today. There's our contact information, and we look forward to talking with you. We will offer you a special deal for anybody. I hate the word deal. Special incentive for those of you who attended today live and would like to explore the wonderful world of GSA, because that's mainly what we do. But we've had to expand our topics to get into a lot of the other areas. And I believe the next one up is, I haven't checked, service disabled vets. So if you know any service disabled vets, have them visit our website and register for the upcoming webinar. Tony, thank you for all your questions. Michael, I look forward to talking with you as well as Tony. And if there's no other questions, have a wonderful day.